guys, we're back with yet another episode of Nedi podcast, of course, on Nedi Media. I am Miss K, and I am back with the back on my back. With who, if not Kgosi? Hi, Kgosi.
What's up? How are you doing?
I'm okay, man, and how are you?
I'm alright. I can't complain. I really cannot complain.
Yeah, what's popping?
Life is lifing. You know,
and it's lifing well, I hope.
Yeah, in a good way. I'm in the prosperity of understanding growth and learning more about myself and getting to a space where I'm able to grow within, you know, the new version of myself. And this is amazing. It feels good. It really does.
Okay, maybe someone is asking themselves, why is Kgosi on Nedi a podcast? And Kgosi, please just tell our audience why Olefa. Tell them like
well, as far as why I'm here is concerned, I really believe there are a lot of conversations that we don't necessarily have as a society. So we are here to just hear my personal story in terms of what my experience has been like with regards to certain things, but we'll dive deep into that. As far as who I am is concerned, Lesedi wa Manye wa ba fokeng bo mona mo di le bo shomang ba ba fokeng ka nnete ha re tswa bo Kgosing re bo Kgosi ba phahama mara le teng ngizalwe abakwa Gambo nabakwa Gambo umsuthu ongwekazi bayangazi. So that's me by name. It's Lesedi Nkululeko Khaya Manye Kgosi by healer name, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, this is what I do, and I'm just trying to be a full-fledged human being. It's what I do, and it's who I am.
Okay, well, guys, and then Kgosi, in fact, is here to tell us and then he was one of the substance users back then, and then he's just here to tell us and then I would just like you to tell our people like life in Libyan by the time ushimisha the substances and whatnot.
Well, life before substances was one thing, but life within substances was another. I feel like I've lived a little bit of a dream and a nightmare simultaneously. Whereas I existed in a space where when I was in active addiction, which is what I like to call it, I was lost in translation on a very big scale, in a sense that I could not understand my sense of self. And coming from other aspects like my upbringing, coming from growing up in a fatherless home, but not fatherless because it was by choice or by circumstance, but because, you know, lives. You know, so I lost my dad when I was about 7. So in the way that things, you know, kind of evolved from that point, going into my growth, I had a very deep lack of self-connection to who I am and my own self, and understanding as to what it is that I want out of life, which created a lot of aspects like validation seeking, which created a lot of wanting to get into things merely because I didn't understand what it is that I needed for my own betterment and my own progression throughout this thing that we call life, you know. But over and above that, as I sit here today representing Narconon as the public relations officer, I could tell a good story about how recovery is a powerful thing when you're working with the right organization, when you're working with the right people that are driven towards a purpose that is more inclined to making sure people get to the best versions of themselves in the best way possible, you know, in every circumstance. So we can talk about those phases and go through it, you know, step by step, and get to understand how it is that I became this amazing person, and, you know, wanting to have a purpose that is driven towards allowing other people to have the same opportunity, especially in the country we live in.
Just before we can talk more, not further about Narconon, I just want you to take us through a general, like, to be exact, the substances,
yeah.
And how was it like having to be Kamara, like having to use substances? And again, like, ke eng ntho le goreng e o feleditse o dira gore o tsamaye o feel gore you know what, I need to stop doing this, I need to seek for help and until over the person that you are today?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that question because where it all started was, I mean, I grew up in a very interesting household, you know, a woman-led household, whereas I was surrounded by females majority of the time. So my feminine aspect of my sense of self has always been very much in tune, but I was very conflicted about my vulnerabilities and how to project those as a male figure, you know, that has to be masculine to some whatever degree. So there were a lot of ups and downs in terms of how I translate my beingness in this world, you know, as an individual. So I couldn't establish what's masculine, what's feminine, what's being a man, what's not being a man, what's being more of a woman-based background type of upright individual, as opposed to, you know, having both aspects. I mean, we grow up in a society where a lot of people come from fatherless homes, a lot of people come from motherless homes, a lot of, you know, well, that's neither here nor there with regards to where I'm going with it, but my background in terms of my story stemmed from when I was at a very young age. And I think I must have gotten lost in translation to the point where I started drugs at the age of 16. And, you know, one could say it was me exploring and trying to experiment with certain things. But in reality, I was running from something that was internally embedded, you know, whereas I didn't know who I was and I didn't know how to fit in. I didn't know how to adjust or adapt to the world that we were living in then and supposedly the world that we live in now, if you look at the drug pandemic and how deep it's gotten. So yeah, that's where I was at.
Okay, so ke drug thing ile gore o thomile ka yona when you were trying hot ena into that.
Woo! Which drug did I start with?
Yeah.
I started with all of them, but no, actually, in truth, I started with alcohol, which for me has been the one benchmark and remedial drug that actually puts people into the depth of other substances. It actually becomes the gateway, in essence. You know, most people say the gateway is weed, marijuana is the gateway, and we don't know why it's been legalized. Those are just semantics. It's like, if we remove the detail, the real influence in our society comes from the things that are allowed. I mean, if you look at the fact that alcohol is legal, it's advertised everywhere. It's on billboards, it's on magazine covers, it's on social media screens, it's on, some people have alcohol as their wallpapers on their phones, you know. So it kind of gives you an idea as to what the psychology is in our society around how people look at substances in their full essence, you know. So if we don't understand the depth of how these things could ruin a society or ruin a community, you know, for that matter, until we have the understanding that if we don't pull ourselves back towards ourselves and do the self-discovery that's required for you to be the best version of yourself, you're constantly going to be in a situation where you're highly influenced by things that not only destroy you, but things that keep you in that lost in translation sort of state, you know.
So basically you started with alcohol and then secondly...
Well, I started with alcohol, then I went on to marijuana, and then I went on to cocaine, and then from cocaine I moved on to crystal meth. From crystal meth, I was kind of on my way to my grave and on my way to death. But in retrospect, it used to be something that used to haunt me, the fact that I ended up at that point. But now it shows me a different side to me. You know, it shows me a different psychology in its essence in terms of how it played out towards the life that I live now and that currently is me. It gave me the understanding that there is no escape in life. You've always constantly got to self-seek, and when you don't know who you are and where you come from, it becomes very hard to know what you want out of life. You know, so the person that I'm becoming now, I'm content with my perfect imperfections. You know, we are perfectly imperfect chaos, as individuals. So the more we start to understand that and get to a space of surrender and acceptance, the more we get to a level where we're able to manage, you know, what it is that we do, the decisions we make, and be accountable as well for the mistakes that we've made. You know, we're not gonna be perfect all the time, but when we do make mistakes, it's the accountability that makes us more responsible for what is yet to come in our future and a part of this journey that we call our purpose.
Someone would ask themselves, Horenge, okay, well, you started taking substances at the age of 16, and then give me what from the age of 16 only busy with the substances.
Interesting question. How many years? I would say I had a lot of on and offs, you know, going in and out of rehab, you know, wanting. I think I've always wanted better for myself. You know, I've always wanted to get to a point where I fully understand what it is that I want out of life, and I want to do it in a responsible manner. But as far as how long I was using is concerned, from 16 right through up until maybe 30, 32 or so, when I hit the point where I was like, yeah, this can't go on anymore.
What?
This really can't go on anymore. Yeah.
16 until 30 something.
Until 32. Like it was, and when I say until 32, to the point where my realization of my conscious choice to want better for myself, not only as an individual, but as a father, but as a family member that wants to step up to a certain plate, you know, and take certain responsibilities, you know, into my own stride, as to want to be a proud child to a mother that has given me everything, anything and everything, actually, to give me the life that I deserve and the life that she felt, you know, was deserved of me, you know, as being her child, and wanting to be a sibling as well, and being an older brother to my sister and being a younger brother to my older brother. Whereas I was able to set that precedent, you know, and that example where I step into a sphere where I can be a loving, full-fledged human being that just becomes an influence to others that maybe have a similar experience to mine in a very, very positive manner. Like, I think when that hit me and I wanted to crave it, it became my new drug, where I was like, yeah, I'd rather crave betterment. I crave the goodness and wanting to be a good person and wanting to be a loving person and wanting to be the best version of me. That's where I'm at right now. And I want to do that in the best way possible. I've still got talents and stuff, so yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, okay, I would really want to know, what kind of a family background do you come from? Is it a good family whereby you were like rich or poor or just, you know? I'm just concerned.
Yeah, you know, just the word rich kind of always throws me off. But I'm like in a space where right now my perception of things is very different. It is very different. But I do come from a family that was very nurturing. I'm not going to lie to you. I come from a family where my mother is a twin sister to my aunt. And they've always been very amazing in their level of support. Their level of strictness, yes, but they've been supportive in the sense that I've had the chance to have two mothers, which is a good thing. You know,
exactly.
I come from a Walo family. It's just that sometimes we don't understand that it doesn't matter how good your family can be materialistically. But when there are deep-rooted issues, emdenini, it becomes a thing, yahore. You know, I mean, the fact that I grew up without a father biologically, that in itself created its own, it created its own turmoil for me.
So basically, that's just the childhood trauma.
It was a childhood trauma, but at the same time, it became deeper traumas in a sense that did have an impact on my family. And because I felt responsible in a way to become a better version of who I was born to be, being lost in translation, switching between my ego and who I'm supposed to be, became a very big challenge for me. So because that clash happened, I got thrown into the spiral of being lost about who I am, you know, spiritually, mentally, physically, to the point where I almost destroyed myself because I got tired. I was like, I don't do this anymore. Like, if I'm gonna die, Lord, it's okay. It's all good. You know, but yeah, I think I do come from a Wallo family that always wanted to understand me, and I always just wanted to be somebody that they could be proud of. And I started doing or acting from a space where I was trying to validate their understanding of who I am, as opposed to finding my true self and wanting that to be loved as opposed to anything else.
Okay. Well, I would say you actually come from a very good, loving, caring family.
Yeah.
So I'm now asking myself, by the time we more substancing, like under whatever, Nedi at home, or you were those people, one of those people, they take substances to a point that
I mean, I did a lot of things, man. It's you know, at this point, it used to be something I'd be shameful of and something I'd be embarrassed about. But when you're in the scope of being an active addiction, you lose so much of yourself that you stop caring about what your actions do to other people. You know, you stop caring about the environment, and it's like, I didn't care that I was in my mother's house and I still had like maybe drugs in my jean pocket.
So you become a selfish person.
Yeah, you literally become selfish to the degree where it's like, it's about my fix. It's about me being able to escape. I don't care that this is your house. I don't care that you're my sister, or I don't care that you're my girlfriend, or I don't care that you're my best friend and you just want what's best for me. I don't care that you're my life coach or guidance, whatever. Like, everything ceases to matter. It becomes about that escape. You become so drawn to wanting to feel safe and protected from your own inner turmoil, from the perspective of the way you see it, as opposed to what other people will understand, to the point where you start telling yourself that because people don't understand where I'm coming from or what I'm going through, why should I care about how my actions affect them when they're not caring enough to try to, you know.
But have you ever seek one of your families down to say, you know what, I'm going through this, can you seek help for me?
Yeah, that boils down to Narconon. And it's for me, it's like, when I really got tired, and I was like, and I approached my mom and I was like, look, I'm done and I'm tired. Like, I really want help and I want to get clean, but I don't know where to start. And Narconon was the forefront of everything that came into the scope of my life. They came in and they said, let us help you. And they did this not necessarily directly, but through my mom, in the sense that my mom spoke at the opening of Narconon. She was there, she was present.
This is pretty cool.
You know, it was almost like some divine intervention was already happening in how much I was yearning healing from an internal place. You know, it's like something had stepped in, something had said, we're here for you. And I'm here for you. You know, the more you yearn something from a heartfelt space, the more it will present itself to you. And that for me came as a savior in the form of Narconon as an organization, as a family, as a spiritual ritual, as a spiritual form of healing, as a phase of escape, as a retribution to me rediscovering who I am, you know, and reconnecting with the inner, genuine and authentic version of myself. You know, as much as they played a role in me wanting to recapture myself in my own direction, my vision, I won't really say I give it to Narconon entirely, because there's no promise that it will give you what you're looking for, because at some point, to some degree, you need to choose it for yourself. You've got to want it. You need to want the healing. You know what I mean? You've got to want sobriety. You know, you've got to want a better life for yourself.
Very true.
But Narconon helps guide you towards that direction. It helps guide you into discovering versions of yourself that are linked to a true potential, the person you were born to be, in divinity, in divine essence, in spiritual being. And it's true only if it's true to you, you know, and your truth is your full potential. So once you start seeking that and wanting that for yourself, it becomes a reality. Okay. So long as you're willing to do the work. Okay.
So now I'm starting to ask myself, Horangi, is Narconon the very first rehab that you went to, or maybe you you've gone to several number of rehab?
I've been to a number of rehabs. I've been to 3 if we're going to talk about rehabs in essence of their registration.
Okay. So, what's the difference between the rehabs that you went to from Narconon? Because you went for Kgosi 3 and you relapsed, and then there's Narconon where that actually made you or helped you to be the person that you are today.
Narconon has a very powerful technology. It's like, and their technology is not because it's structured in physical resources, whereas now they're prodding you with certain things. Their technology is dynamically focused on moving you away from taking you off one substance and putting you onto another substance that's probably legal. So they don't do any medical detox.
No,
they don't use pills, they don't use medication. We use the essence of what is developed already in the human body, which is vitamins. There's a vitamin process. So we have a withdrawal phase, and then we have a detox phase.
How do they withdraw substances from Budiaka? How do they do that?
Now, this is a very interesting question. When I was going through the process, and I can only speak from my own experience, when I was going through the process, our withdrawal process that we offer at Narconon gives you the opportunity to really engage and confront your issues and yourself.
Which is a good thing.
Outside of...
they don't cheat too. Okay, let's do it the easiest way.
No painkillers, no anxiety pills, no drugs that are generally going to influence your sense of being and your sense of self, We try to reintroduce you back to your authentic self in a way that is so dynamic and so powerful, whereas you get to understand that you're capable of finding the healing that you want. All you require is the support and the people that have the belief, as much as you have the belief in yourself, just embedded deep down in yourself. We just help you bring it out. We help you reconnect. We help you confront your issues from a realistic point of view.
Tell me about 5 days of you being at the center. What happened in that just 5 days?
My first 5 days?
Yes.
Oh my God.
What happened?
I think my first 5 days were kind of they were tricky. They were difficult. And for lack of better words, they were shitty. But I'll say this because a part of me was ready for it, and I knew it would be vigorous. I knew it would be challenging. But I looked forward to it, and I tapped into it in such a way whereas it's the experience in itself kept digging me deeper and deeper and deeper into the things that I was running from. And because a substance was always an escape. When you're in a position where there is no escape, like there's no, like you're forced to confront yourself.
So you have to face the reality.
Oh my God. I was like, there was a point where like I went through like crazy withdrawals. Like I was shaking at some point. I was overly talkative, then I was not talkative, then I was like, so I couldn't understand who it is that I was and where it is that I wanted to go to on like day 2 or 3 or so. But by day 5, at that point, I had reached a level whereas it became real to me. It became real that, no, we're focusing on healing now. Now we're headed towards a changed lifestyle. Because everything that was happening with me internally, physically, mentally, on a spiritual level, I was dreaming different. Then nightmares. Yo, like what we call the manifestations. But the nightmares I started having were wild. And it was interesting because I loved the program, man. You know, I fell in love with what Narconon has to offer. I fell in love with the technology that has been there for 55 plus years, and we don't know about it as a continent. We didn't know that this is out there. We didn't know that there's access to this kind of dynamic healing in such a way whereas it caters to your betterment and your full potential. So right down to the point whereas their level of faith in you and the belief that they have in you goes even beyond your own understanding, so that as soon as you tap into your full potential and how much you believe in you, it puts you on a whole transitionary different level
Okay.
Whereas now you start to understand yourself.
Okay, I just don't want to skip anything. I wish I can, but I don't. Okay, I want to know the programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kidi programs and then what did you for Nakukananga?
Yeah.
And how much? I can't stop a move.
I'll tell you. Well, it starts off with withdrawal, right? We've got a withdrawal phase. Withdrawal is generally the dynamic confrontation of self from a space of gritting yourself within to willingness at its forefront, where you're intentional about what you seek. You come face to face with, and I'm speaking from my own experience, you come face to face with how much you want betterment for your life. And once you get through withdrawal and get to the first basic fundamental understanding of what it's about to confront yourself with yourself, from yourself, in a way where you've got the kind of support that is unwilling, like unwitheredly offered to you from a point where there's no limitation. It's a whole different dynamic. Withdrawal in itself, it taps you into a level of potential where you finally achieve something in life that is outside of that psychological and that substance-based dependence that you had come from in your past, or come from your substance use. You understand? And then we have our second phase, which is called the detox. The detox is interesting because dynamically it throws you into wanting to get even the substances that are stuck in your fatty tissues that most people don't understand. Like even when you stop, like if you're a smoker or you're a drug taker or you take substances, whatever, it gets embedded and it gets lodged in your fatty tissues, even if you haven't used for about 6 months to a couple of years. And you don't understand that the New Life Detox can actually offer you that release, whereas you get to re-experience the regain of memories. You get to, old injuries come back. You start to, I got injured like when I was 16 in high school doing athletics, and when I was doing the detox I was like, I remember this pain and I know where it comes from, and you're finally getting back to your physical stature of being the real you, and you from an authentic place, whereas before you got lost in translation, whether it happened as a child or whenever it did, you're now being reintroduced to yourself again, and the power in it is just, it's amazing. Like, it goes beyond what words could describe. For me, I think the New Life Detox phase of the whole program is primarily amazing. It was my favorite part of the program, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I loved it. I could have stayed in that sauna, I could have been in that sauna for the next 5 years, like every 5 hours, like every day. Really, yeah.
So that's the second phase, and then the third.
That was the second phase.
How many phases, by the way?
We've got quite a couple. We've got 4 phases in retrospect, but they're all broken down into different subcategories of how much you need to embed yourself in the program holistically, not only as a spiritual being, but as a human being, as a physical person, as your existential reality is concerned, So right after the detox comes what we call objectives. So our objectives bring you from your past. It takes you away from you being mentally stuck in your past and past experiences and your old life, and it brings you into the present. It makes you more present about where you are. Be in the now.
Okay.
Be in what's going on right now, and understand that you've got to still confront. You've got to confront what is existential to you and what is your reality, what makes you the person that you are, what makes you dynamically different from everybody else. And it's amazing because it got me to reconnect with being okay with certain things, and accepting the fact that I've got to do the hard work. The hard work is not just about what I do physically. It's holistic. I really got to embed myself in understanding that moment by moment, I've got to be the best version of me.
Okay, so that's the third. Right.
That's the third.
And then the fourth.
And then we've got life skills.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Great.
Shoot me at life skills, bruh. Like, whoa. Life skills was wild because, it actually takes me back to the whole encounter and the whole experience. Life skills was crazy because you go through ups and downs in life, right? And the ups and downs that we go through, we have a lot of people in our lives that matter. They're important individuals, like your family members, like friends, like people you choose to have as acquaintances or whatever the case may be. Certain people are a page or a chapter in your life, or they're part of the whole book, but they vary. And because they vary, you've got to understand how to determine the difference between the effect that these people have on your life and the effect that you have on their lives, and then look at it from a congruent sort of understanding, whereas you look at it in symmetry.
So that's when you become selfless.
Now you're becoming self-aware. now you've got situational awareness where it's like, oh, this is amazing. It's getting me to the point where I'm starting to understand myself a lot better and the people in my life, because we've got the antisocial, then you've got the social personalities, and they've got their own characteristics in essence. And once you start to get to know those things, you realize that you're not an antisocial purely because you're willing to tap into the betterment of your own character. So right after that, when you go into overts, but there's a lot that's part of this program, and
for how long does it take?
I mean, we're offering a program that is about 3 to 5 months.
Okay.
In essence, but it's 3 to 5 months based solely on your own progression, your own assessment, your level of seriousness, and how much you're willing to confront your healing and your betterment and your sobriety and becoming a full-fledged human being in the essence of who you were born to be, That's what we're trying to help you rediscover and reincarnate into your current existence and just guide you through all of that.
How much have you paid for the whole program?
Well, the program is about 200,000 and yeah, everybody
just kidding, my throat.
Water.
A glass of water for that.
We could drink to that. But I'll tell you one thing. It's 200,000 in a sense that it's broken down into dynamically important factors, because you'll find that a lot of people that are in active addiction that have faced different rehab centers. I mean, you get people that have been to rehab like 4, 5, 6 times and they feel like it's not working. And if you go to like one rehab, how much are you paying? Let's say at the cheapest you pay 50,000. Now, if you've been to rehab 4 times and you're paying 50K each time, how much have you spent? For a rehab program that is not necessarily as effective as what is offered with a new technology that has worked for 55 years, if not plus, at an 85% success rate. You understand? As in, we don't promise success in its essence, but we promise a different experience to give you a better chance and a better opportunity to own your own healing and secure it in such a way whereas you start to develop and evolve into a better form of existence, and your life becomes owned by you from a space of you being the best version of yourself.
Okay. So, with everything that you've said, do you guys at Narconon have any person, should I say client, that ever relapsed?
I can't say that we've had anybody that relapses, but what I can tell you is that it boils back down to our main factor, in a sense that there has to be a degree of willingness, and we go out of our way, we go all the way through in terms of giving you the opportunity to re-understand yourself and re-establish yourself from a place of honesty.
Just by the way, for someone to relapse, it doesn't mean horenge the center ayaira be like, cause ayaira di lo the way the thing. It's just up to you, because if you are a center and then there's also you on the other hand. So it goes hand in hand. Okay, we're assisting you. Are you here to assist yourself as well now? So having to say someone came and then relapsed from Narconon, to be exact, it doesn't make the center to be like they haven't done anything good
not necessarily.
For years.
So
have you, because you haven't answered my question.
No, I mean, we look, at the end of the day, we are a work in progress as an institute, as an organization, and as a healing factorial process for individuals, whereas we can have individuals that are in full control of their sobriety, their understanding of self, and we provide the kind of support, whereas even throughout, after you've done the program, we still support you, we check on you, we still maintain trying to get you to work on your conditions of your life and make your amends. And so the more we embed ourselves in getting people to understand that, and they build up a consistency in their own sense of self and wanting to stay clean, it's got to come from a space of intention and willingness, which is why as a part of the program, we make sure that willingness and intention is something that we put a lot of full focus on, especially through the objectives, so that once you're able to encapsulate that, you understand where to start foundationally when it comes to being able to secure that even outside of the institute and embed it into your life from scratch. So the reason why we have an 85.5% success rate is because we constantly care about our individuals, not only, and we don't see them as addicts, which is why we call people students. We're all students of life. So we give you that understanding that we want to reintegrate you back into society with the understanding that never see yourself as lesser. You're not lesser of a person. You're human as well. And the humanistic aspect of the goodness that is in you and that inner genius that you can tap into, that healing, is what we try to give back to you. So as far as that's concerned, yeah, that's what we strive towards.
Okay.
Every individual is entitled to their decisions, so we give them that freedom.
So, I'm just asking myself, is Narconon for the poor?
Narconon is for everybody.
Okay. So, if I can afford the 200K, and I need to come, and I wish I can, for someone out there,
yeah.
What's happening?
I'll be honest with you. There's one of two aspects. We've got a growth phase, whereas we're trying to get the awareness of Narconon out there so much to the point where we want the middle class to want to contribute back into society in such a way, whereas we establish the opportunity. I mean, we live in many different governmental forms of correction and control. Whereas if they really wanted to contribute to wellness and betterment, and this is not to name any names or to name any corporations or industries, but we live in a society, whereas as a society, if we do come together, there is an opportunity to fundamentally change things, even for the people that are less fortunate or less financially able. So the reason why we have discussions like this and why we want to showcase organizations like Narconon is so that governmental institutions, private organizations, private companies, all these companies that we try to instill our efforts into so that they can better the economy, why not get them to help our people heal and become better individuals so that they can become more upstanding citizens towards even the cause that they're trying to push. So as much as we may be in a space where fees and financial eligibility becomes a bit of a problem, we're trying to reshape that by getting as many corporations as possible involved and getting them to want to come to the table and have conversations as corporations, or getting involved in organizations that want to change things and want to shift the whole drug pandemic, because it's global. It's not just about what's happening in Africa. It's a global pandemic.
Very true.
So we want them to come to the table so that we can start having real conversations.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, we definitely are going to proceed, but I would love you to just face your cam and tell the people, call out to them, guys, come forward and we help those people, No,
definitely. As a website, we are narcononafrica.org.co. Sorry about that. narcononafrica.org.za. If you guys can just Google the website, and if you Google Narconon, it will pop up, and I want you guys to integrate. I want you to educate yourself on the different links that we have. As an individual, as PR officer of Narconon, and as a representative and ambassador of sobriety, I really want people to understand that I'm here to help. My cause is to help. So Nedi _Kgosi, DEITY _Kgosi Kgosi on Instagram. And on Facebook, Lesedi Re Kgosi Manye. So get in touch with me. Let's engage. Let's have conversations. I'm trying to develop a platform where we can all bring together a form of healing that society really deserves, and they really need that.
Okay, well, it's not a wrap, guys. We're still proceeding with us.
No,
Okay,
100%.
cool. So taba ya gago ya badimo ke kopela o bolele ka yona, like what's happening, what happened for you to actually having to realize wena na le badimo, and o realize it about like your calling.
My calling, my calling, you know, we live in the kind of society where right now there's a lot going on when it comes to spirituality with certain people, you know, and all of us have a calling, but not many of us are chosen, you know, and that's about as much as I can say with regards to that. But you know, we all have they have their own spirits that sort of guide them and become a part of who they are. So people need to start practicing self-awareness, self-seeking, and self-discovery, because your journey is within yourself. How it's directed, it's between you and your people, you and your spirits, and you and your self-understanding of who you are and where it is that you come from. So for me to discover it, I had to go through a lot, but it's not to say that everybody has to go through the worst in order to become a spiritual being of, you know, full essence and full embeddedness, you know. It runs back to intention and willingness. If you have the intention and the willingness that is heartfelt and it's bred within your soul and your beingness and your spiritual growth, being at the forefront of who you want to become, as long as you're embracing that, you're really going to start to tap into understanding your own direction and where it is that you want to go. You know, I'm not going to give any protocol or rules or tell you, hey, it's on to Tome Mon, now Tome Mon. We're all different. I mean, I started with understanding that I used to see a lot of things, and like I used to have like really intense dreams. I used to have visions. But as a child and in my youth, I never used to understand it and where it came from. I only started understanding it when I had to hit like rock bottom. I had to be like, yo, netlamele go nyewe. Okay. But I think also with that, it came from the fact that Thomas, some of us, you know, we have to see flames first before you know, but that doesn't apply to everybody. You know, a lot of other people are able to learn from other people's mistakes, you know, and we're not the same as individuals. That's why, you know, and because we're not the same is the reason why, in our own uniqueness, we need to embrace our gifts from the way we understand it and from our own level of connectedness. You know, you can't really look at somebody else and be like, I'm going to do it exactly like that. You could use other people as an example by means of them being a guideline, you know, but not necessarily to the point where you feel as though yours is going to go exactly the same way. And our callings are different, man. They differ.
So when I'm calling you, how we boni nor we realize kadipono.
My calling was something I had to accept. Okay, but I saw it in many different ways.
Oh,
dreams, visions. People that I came across, people that I bumped into or encountered in my course of life or throughout this lifetime. When
was it?
It happened a lot, to be honest. It wasn't just like one day where it was like, okay, sing yazi. Nah, it had to be like many signs.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that I encountered. There were a lot of things.
It told me at what age?
I can't really tell you.
Really?
And that's I can't. That's just me being honest.
Okay.
Because as far back as I can remember, I remember when I was like 18 and I started having certain dreams. But it was because I didn't understand what it meant. Maybe that's why. Maybe then I didn't see it as a calling or realize.
True.
But I think, in truth, for me to accept that this is something else, I'm going through something unique, was when my daughter was born. Because I had a whole different dynamic type of experience. You know, it was like,
when was your daughter born?
This must have been 2019.
2019, okay.
Yeah, 2019. Nah, she was born 19th.
In 2019.
At some point. It's just, it's not something I'd like to divulge. You know, I'm very, I would say, my level of empathy likes to secure my own energetic, personal connection to the things in my life, you know.
But your blood is thicker than water.
But in essence, no, it's not a fear that I have. I just like to live a private life. I like to keep certain things personal.
Like your relationship?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Which one?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, and then we realized on how Abelejo, it was in 2019, and then Wadiranka Yona. Oh, there's something happened.
Yeah, a lot.
What is that? What is it?
I mean, I went through dreams. I went through a spiritual awakening. My physicality was changing. I started to, I really started to connect with different parts of who I am and myself.
Okay, sharp. So what I want to know is, we dirile eng wa tswa go twasa o dirile eng or sa le go processing ya go twasa o twasitse re gone o ta per wa lawyer re nyang go tamo.
I'll be honest with you guys, in my opinion, into us why I pay, bro.
Really?
Yeah, into us why I pay. It's Ugutwasa is not a phase, it's a lifestyle.
Maro twasitse facing yana we thought yana. Come on, say.
Like as we sit right now, Ngzendwasweni. Yeah, it's
you know, toma practice ga ning ge. Because I want to put or fit ning ka twasa toma practice ga ning ge.
Let me give you context. let me help you out here.
Okay.
When I say Indwaswa Ipeli, people see Ugutwasa as a start and an end purely because they see it as a phase. They don't understand that Indwaso is a part of what you were born for. So, Aksugutu Ukalile Ugutwasa at a certain point. Ugutwasa from your birth. It's just the acceptance Ugutwasa from a degree of consciousness that became Ugutluga Yabanemihlugo from where you're at. It's like Indwaso, remember, it's an awakening. It's a constant ascension. You're constantly leveling up to your understanding of who you are, what you were born for, where you come from, the things you stand for, the totems you represent, the giftedness that you are here to represent, your purpose, your lifestyle. And these things are ever-growing aspects, you know. You're constantly rediscovering you moment by moment. By essence of the fact that the more you are self-aware, the deeper you get.
So am I allowed to say,
basically, it's like you know what I mean? Like as in, when we live life, we're constantly being educated. It's like our ascension comes from our understanding of self, the how and the where and the why that is connected to our situational awareness as beings. It gets us back to the forefront of where we come from and the purpose as to what our mission in this existence really is. So the more we understand that from a space of honesty and authenticity, it's not easy. You know, you've constantly got to be in the moment. And sometimes we slip into egos and our ego can throw us off. You could get something called a spiritual ego, which a lot of people have. Trust me.
Oh, really?
Till this day, I still encounter people that have spiritual egos. But it's because, it's not because that they're bad people, but it's because they're trying to synchronize a certain level or essence of who they are and trying to match it with them becoming their higher self and thinking these things can exist simultaneously. And that can't happen because now you need to understand that the authentic you and the ego you cannot accommodate the same space. One has got to die. So as to which one you existentially operate from, that's entirely your choice as an individual. And you just have to be honest with yourself as to where am I operating from, Vele? You know.
Okay. So this Christianity, this the you know the king spiritual part of it.
You want to know the differences?
The differences.
I'm not gonna lie to you. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't say Christianity per se or whatnot. However, uyibeka ngendlela esizoyaziyo. Sithu lekereke azihlukanga.
Okay.
They are no different.
Okay.
That's why even if you look at the words in their essence, isintu nesonto.
Okay.
Sintu sonto. Just.
Okay.
It's one and the same thing. It's about relatability. It's about the spiritual growth and connectedness of who you are and your beingness at that time or at that level. But once you grow in your own spiritual being or beingness and connectedness, you start to realize that they kind of work in sync and they kind of work together. And you get to a point where as they gel and as you become the best version of yourself, you say, you see, which I'm gonna listen to this. You know what I mean?
That's great.
And it gets you to that point where you're like,
you know, Christians will be singing Ntabaya, see, hey, she does, oh, you know, my father. Kind of vibe, you know, like, okay, no, I want. So I just don't understand why and then we happen to, you know. But anyway, and now I want us to talk about relationships.
Okay.
Relationships. How do you perceive relationships? And then what's your perspective? Pertaining relationships, and then okay, well, just for now.
Holistically, in terms of like relationships in general, or like romantic.
I like how you started it.
No, because I mean, we have. I believe an individual needs to build up a relationship with themselves before you can start to explore fully embedding your beingness into the connectedness with somebody else. Especially, I mean, people have chemistry. We have chemistry with numerous people. I mean, we've got a chemistry right now as we're talking. There's a chemistry I've got a chemistry with my mom. I've got a chemistry with my friend.
And
I've got a chemistry with people that I have a connectedness to, and we can relate to certain discussions. But from chemistry, a lot of people get lost in translation and understanding in terms of their outlook on relationships purely because they haven't developed a relationship with themselves. Whereas, this is my personal belief, I don't believe you can fully love someone from a place of unconditionalness when you've never learned to have a loving relationship with yourself. You know, it starts with you. You've got to love you. If I don't love me,
how am I supposed to love Mutomo?
You know, like unconditionally, I need to be in the full acceptance of who I am. Me being imperfectly perfect chaos as an individual and as a soul being. If I don't learn to love that and accept it and know that it will evolve as it should based on my efforts, how do I give that to the next person or even expect that from the next person from a realistic and transparently honest point of view? It becomes very tough. It becomes very difficult. And self-love is something that we are all trying to understand, I suppose, but until we start looking for it within ourselves and understanding it for ourselves as to what it is for us, individual by individual, we're not going to get to where we need to get to.
Good. Okay, so now I want us to talk about trauma bond. Unahana inka trauma bond. What do you know about trauma bond?
Trauma bonding. Traumas are, they're not fixed. That's what I believe. Your trauma doesn't become who you are. Your trauma is just a part of your personality. And your personality is, if you break the word down, personality, a person's reality of who you are. And that is not even your own reality. It's the reality of what other people have told you. Like if I say, so Kat, tell me, what kind of person are you? You say, I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm caring. And it's like, are you telling me? It's like, you know. Are you telling me, like, yeah. in reality, are you telling me stuff you truly believe, or are you telling me stuff you've heard from other people? They've just told you that. But there's something called, and I learned this from my life coach, my spirit guide. He says to me, strength and character. Well, he expressed this. He said, strength and character is something that a lot of people lack. And that is one of the most respectable aspects that anybody can establish for themselves. Having strength in character and understanding who you are unapologetically in your imperfections, in your flaws, in your strengths, in your, the list goes on. But being able to hone that and develop those aspects as an individual is the only way that I believe people can really understand themselves and get to see what their traumas can do in terms of how they affect, or the effect that they have on their choices, the decisions they make in life, how they see things, how they perceive life, how they build up their perspective when it comes to certain aspects of life, that make us who we are as individuals. So I think in the people that I've had in my life that actually matter to me, I've been able to start building strength in character. Yes, I have my mishaps. I'm not perfect, but I feel like I'm on my way.
Okay.
I'm on my way.
Okay. Good. Okay, now let's talk about mental health and men's mental health, because what I've actually noted is that men's mental health, women's mental health is
That's true.
So mental health overall, and men's mental health.
The mental health in a general scope, I would say wellness is important. Let me start there by highlighting that. And when I say wellness, I'm not trying to restrict it to men or women.
And well-being of a person.
Humanity needs to understand that humanity is a very, very, very crucial factor to incorporate in your sense of being. Having a sense of humanity. Whereas we need to stray away from this whole females are this, women, why is it Basandi? Why is it men? What guys? My goodness, like humanity as a human being, like I will always do my best to treat you the same way I would treat myself if I was outside of myself.
Exactly.
If I had to sit here with me, the things that I would feel are best for me, that's how I would treat me.
That's humanity.
And why don't I treat the next person like that, But then there's things like botu, like Ahosana botu. People are in a selfishness complex merely because we're living in a systemized sort of way of seeing life and existence in its essence. We're disconnected and discombobulated, like to a very deep degree when it comes to how we perceive existence in itself. And we can go deeper into that topic, but I mean, in retrospect to the question that you asked, it's like, when we look at relationships, the relationship that you have with anyone and everyone is a reflection on the relationship that you have with yourself. If you lack self-love, you'll never be able to project love without the unnecessary insecurities that are instilled and that are there for you to need healing for within yourself, towards yourself. So if you've never delved into the fact that you need your own healing, you've got to work through certain things, and you're constantly in that moment, in that space where I want to understand myself better, I want to heal myself better, I want to get to a space where how do you then go into the external world and then want to identify yourself with other things outside of who you are and where you're at and what needs to be worked on, and expect things to go good? It's not going to happen.
Okay, so when we talk about men's mental health, like I said, men's mental health, women's mental health, is it because banna ababui and then emonna akatla forward to talk about whatever and then the society like amuna wiki, so could be Ukaring when like there's an episode that we just released recently. It's episode 4 of Nedi podcast, whereby one of the guests mental health, and whatnot, and experience life experiences and whatnot, and but the way Batuba receiving that kahona, it's different. They received it well, and they are very accommodative and not judging.
Look, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, your core question is men's mental health, right?
Yes.
When it comes to men, I feel like we're not just misunderstood by the feminine species, but we are misunderstanding ourselves as well in our combination of existence, in the sense that we exist as masculine and feminine as human beings, as individuals, right? So it runs back to the question, runs back to the answer that I gave you like just now, where I say humanity. Humanism is understanding that you are broken into different aspects of the existence that is you. You are feminine and you are masculine. So the more you start to understand yourself, the more you're able to strike a balance and be a little bit of both, so that you can accommodate the next person, including the female species, including your own species as a male. You understand? So your strength in being able to carry yourself out throughout the scope of what society is the better you understand you, the better you're able to carry you. Now, if we all focused on our own authentic, genuine healing, we wouldn't be worried about other people or the next person, because we're all doing the work. We're all doing the inner work. We're all healing. Imagine if you had a world where everyone is healing. What would the world be like? Less violent. There'd be less war. There'd be less killings, unnecessary confrontation GBV. That leads to vigorous engagements. There'd be less killing. There'd be less, and this thing goes across the board. So even when you look at aspects like substance abuse, these things are influenced by our lack of understanding of who we are and where we come from. And for me, men's mental health needs to be taken more seriously, because now we've dove into the scope, whereas we prioritize women, which is not a bad thing. We prioritize them, but we put them on this pedestal when it comes to their wellness, to the point where we've forgotten about the role that is played by men. And somehow we need to synchronize this thing, whereas there is a balance towards us working together, not separating who's better or who's worse off, or who's strong, who's weak, who's gone through the most turmoil, or who's gone through the most trauma. It's like, Joe, I mean, if we generalize our traumas and now we want to make comparisons,
you won't win this battle, man. So what would you say to that one man most men, I believe, they don't like sharing or having to talk with other people about their personal, understand.
That's true.
So for that one man, and then because they kill themselves, they understand. So
I'd say to the next common guy, find yourself. Be okay with who you are. Be okay with your sensitivities and your vulnerabilities. You're human. You're not extraterrestrial. You're not superhuman. You're not Superman. You're not something that is outside of your current existence. You have divinity within you, but the more you better understand yourself, the more you can understand how to operate in a world where you respect every aspect that is around you. Respect women, but don't respect them to the point where it ends up putting you in a position where you start disrespecting and taking yourself for granted as a man. Don't lose yourself in the cusp of it all. So I truly believe, as men, we need to empower women as much as we empower ourselves. But when we empower ourselves, we need to take into consideration that we have a role to play. Logically, as a man, Mamela, your providence is in the essence of your being reaching its full potential. And if you don't reach your full potential, you need to understand that It's not a destination. It's a process. You're getting there day by day throughout this lifetime, throughout this existence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, how can you redefine a man or a real man?
Redefine?
Yes.
By my own understanding?
Your own understanding.
I feel like as a man, from the day that you are born with the necessity to understand that you are responsible for everything and everyone around you. That's simply put. That's simply put.
Okay, that's super great, man. And then, okay, we're heading towards the end of the episode.
What about them?
I don't know, just tell me something about them. Why have you tattooed yourself, and the tattoo the wearing laughing pili dintang?
My body.
Maybe we did a mistake. I'm like,
no, there are no mistakes. My body is a canvas. I believe we are built with this borrowed body. It's we aren't our bodies. We are the essence that embodies this shell that we kind of walk through this existence with. So I believe the way it's decorated is like if you buy a car and you decide you want to buy a green car but now you want to paint it black. What's the difference between the car and your body? Because it's an essence of what carries you from, one space of existence or one moment to the next. And it's the way that I see myself. But my body has got a lot of stories about me. Every tattoo tells a story. It's a phase in my life that I was at, and it's things I've experienced, it's things that I've encountered. Some of it, like this one is the most recent, which is like Amun-Ra, which is like the sun god. So I believe I draw strength from the sun in many different ways. And from a spiritual forefront, I feel like it's my connectedness. Most people would say tattoos are an escape. Maybe. But what I truly believe is that tattoos are my milestones. They are my way of... This was my reward to myself for like getting to the level that I'm at right now. And it was me rewarding myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
With a tattoo.
Yeah.
Wow. So with what you're having on your body right now, will you still have more tattoos?
Many more.
Where?
No, everywhere.
Where?
Everywhere. I'm not gonna hold back, I'll
Do you have any somewhere?
Yeah, I do.
Do you mind show?
No.
Okay, cool. What would you say to the drug users, people or a person who's using drugs right now? Like,
you'll be okay as long as you get to a point where you start realizing that what you're doing is not helping you. I know it hurts. I know the pain is there. I know it's unbearable sometimes. But the grass is greener here on the other side. It's about all I can say.
Okay, and generally to the people out there.
Yeah. STD underscore Kgosi, what? No, I'm joking. Once upon a time I would have thought I would have like one of those radio teachers. Hey, what's up? What's going on? My name is no. Like I would say let's exist in a society that wants better. Let's work together. Let's really start to embed ourselves in real conversations. Let's start having real chats in our relationships. Let's start really becoming present fathers and present mothers. Let's start unifying families. Let's start healing from generational traumas. Let's start really taking the drug pandemic seriously. Let's really start working on our wellness and our health. Let's go to the gym.
Show them.
Anyway, let's really start going to the gym. Let's live life a quarter mile at a time, but taking every moment in its essence by blessing. Let's stay blessed and highly favored. Let's look at God in a different perspective, but let's respect our essence of who we are and who we want to become. I'm not telling you what to believe in, but I'm just saying find yourself, find your godly essence within you and who you are.
Oh, Okay, fine. From me to you, I am Miss K. Of course, this is Nedi Podcast. This is how we closing the episode. We are on social media platforms, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Twitter, we are Nedi Media. On IG, we are Nedi Media _ and Nakilratala LOVE. On YouTube, of course, we are there. Go and subscribe. We are Nedi Media. Like, comment, and share. Ta-ta.